Hello, good evening, and welcome to The Probe. I'm Carlos Kaloni. We're live on DSTV, channel 421, GoTV 125, Joy 99.7 FM, and live at 99.5 FM. You can also catch us live streaming across all our digital platforms, that is Facebook, YouTube, and X, at Joy News on TV, and globally on myjoyonline.com. This is an interactive show, so you can share your thoughts with us as we go along. And tonight, we turn our focus to the government proposal to ban plastics in Ghana. And as the United Nations opens the Global Oceans Conference in France, the spotlight is firmly on the growing threats of plastic pollution in our oceans. And Ghana is now considering a full ban on plastics. But just how serious is the plastic pollution menace here in the country? Let me paint a picture of the situation for you with the graphics you see here on the screen. And you see key environmental initiative. The president there is actually proposing a ban import and production of a styrofoam, which means we cannot produce nor import that particular product. And instead, he's saying also that they will ban wooden chairs in schools, and the wooden chairs will be replaced with plastic desks made of plastics. Now, how is Ghana actually ending the plastic pollution menace? The president is saying that single-use plastic is to be banned. I mean, he announced this just a few days ago. Now, let's look at the plastic usage and the recycling menace as we have it here in the country. And the figures you are seeing there are in tons. Now, the amount of plastic generated every year is 1.1 million tons. That is what you see in the red. Out of that figure, just about 104,500 tons is actually recycled, which means that about 995,500 tons, is disposed indiscriminately. Now, what happens to the plastic that is not recycled? The over 90% that goes to waste, indiscriminately disposed of through littering. So you see many of our streets, forests, and communities, you see all kinds of plastic products littering the whole environment. That's where many of them end up. And also you see our drains. Many a time when it rains, you see plastic flowing on the flood waters. But some also burn this plastic uncontrollably, and which means they are polluting the air as a result. Now, look at this particular flow chart here. You see what actually happens to plastic not recycled and its effect. Now, 1.1 million tons plastic is generated every year in Ghana. Out of that, just 9.5% is recycled, which is less than 10% of it. And 90.5% is not recycled. Where do they end up? They are dumped in aquatic environment, in our rivers and the ocean. And the effect is that it affects fishes and the aquatic environment. And also, the 90.5% that is not recycled also choke our drains, and it leads to flooding. Now, what has the government done over the years to address this particular menace? You see there, 2008, the government actually placed a ban on plastic import and production, which means what President John Dramani Mahama is saying now is not new. It first happened in 2008. One would ask, if the ban actually happened in 2008, we are in 2025. Why is the government still talking about this particular issue? We'll find out. And then in 2011, something happened. There was the establishment of the Plastic Waste Recycling Fund. And that happened in 2011, which also attracted 10% of environmental excise tax on imported plastic, which means that any plastic that is imported into the country from 2011 attract 10% of environmental tax. Then fast forward to 2020. The government also established the National Plastic Management Policy, which is supposed to take a look at the entire life cycle of the plastic product, when it is produced up to when it is disposed of. That policy, as we speak, is in place. But the Auditor General has been digging and finding out what has been happening. And this is what the Auditor General said. He said the failure to execute comprehensive awareness programs, build capacity, monitor effectiveness, and collaborate with stakeholders led to improper disposal practices of plastic waste. This does not only pose environmental hazards, but also undermines efforts towards sustainable plastic waste management in the country. And so that is the president. He's saying that he's placing a ban on plastic in the country. And so the Mahama-led administration is now determined strongly to end the plastic pollution crisis by banning both production and importation of the plastic products in the country. While environmentalists actually support the move, the Ghana Plastic Manufacturers Association is pushing back. It's warning a ban could cost over 3.9 million jobs in the country. How they came to that figure, we'll find out. So what should the solution actually be? Should it be an outright ban or an effective waste management system? We'll get all of the answers from our guests this evening. Joining me on Zoom all the way from France is the Minister responsible for Environment, Ibrahim Murtala. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you, and thank you for having me, and good evening to your cherished listeners.
Right, and in studio with me is the president of the Plastic Manufacturers, Ebo Botre. He's joining me in studio, and you're welcome to the show.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
Right, so we'll take a short break. When we return, we'll zoom into the conversation and get you the answers. Please stay. Thank you so much for staying with us here on The Probe. I'll come to you in studio, but let me go to Zoom to speak to the Minister in charge of Environment, Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed. Thank you so much for joining us. Explain to us what the government means if it says that it is banning plastic production and importation.
Well, let me say good evening to your cherished viewers and also my colleague in the studio there, and good evening to the good people of Ghana. And I think that plastic pollution has become one of the most pressing environmental challenge that confronts Ghana and I guess many countries across the globe, for which reason this year Ocean Conference is focused on plastic. And even the World Environment Day, the theme was, generally on plastic. And what once served as modern convenience, unfortunately, has evolved into a global menace, which we are all confronted with. And it is affecting not just, our ecosystem, but marine life to a very large extent. So there is the need for something to be done. I know that there have been several attempts by successive government to see how we can navigate through the complexities, to a very large extent, sometimes, borders on socioeconomic conditions of people, particularly my good friend who is there, who are engaged in plastic business, and indeed have also engaged a lot of people in this country as means of job creation or employment. But we're weighing between the jobs that are created and whether there is an alternative that we can do as a state to be able to, prevent the concerns expressed by my friend in your studio of the joblessness which may occasioned as a result of drastically just banning plastic, materials being used for the purposes of our domestic use and even industrial purposes, and also not denying people the opportunity to have the jobs that they are engaged in. And these are some of the things government is weighing on. We are not just going to say that ban them outright. We are also looking at alternative solutions. There is no denying the fact, including my friend and those who engage in plastic business, that it is creating a lot of problems. The understanding is that for some of the plastics, they need about 250,000 years to be able to, to decompose, even when they are buried. So it is extremely difficult. This affects aqua life, it affects the marine life, it affects our water bodies, it affects us, because a lot of the plastic gets into the food we eat, the products that are created. When animals eat such, it comes with some hazardous substances And when we consume them, particularly in this case, fish, it is going to affect us. So we're all looking at means by which we can ban it, but we're also looking at alternative means by which we can still advance the cause of man's convenience so that we can still do the kinds of things we do, but also taking care of the effects of plastic being used. So I can understand the frustrations and the concerns expressed.
All right.
But government is not just looking at, let's just ban it outright immediately. It's going to be a gradual process. And we'll see how we can navigate through that, through such
You
engagement.
said it's going to be a gradual process. When is that supposed to kickstart?
Well, we have actually started something like that. There have been a lot of treaties that we are signatories to as a state, and we are working on that. In fact, if you look at in Ghana, we produce about 840,000 tons of plastic, annually. And what percentage of it is being collected? Sachet water, bottled plastic water, we collect less than 10%. So the other 90%, where does it end up to? It ends up in our water bodies. It ends up in our food, because animals, when they eat them, the macroparticles that are in them, they get into them, we eat them, and then it affects us. So we all need to understand that we have a crisis at hand.
Right.
And the earlier we deal with the crisis, the better. In fact, plastic waste annually, approximately 9.5% of what is collected is recycled. We have just 25 plastic, waste recycling companies in Ghana. 25, the entire nation. And majority of the 25 live in Accra. We've gotten some funding from the World Bank, and we are assisting some, plastic waste, collectors in Accra. And if you look at them, we have one in Eastern region, we have one in Northern region, and then we don't have one in Volta region. And we have given them some funding through the funds we got from the World Bank. About 2 months ago, I had to issue checks to those companies. But with all these things we are doing, what percentage of the plastic we generate that we collect? Less than 10%. That is extremely worrying.
Right. For the purposes of clarity, there are a lot of people watching. What specific plastics are you talking about? Does it mean I'm not going to get water in my plastic bottle, like the usual bottled water?
All kinds of plastics. Majority of the one we produce is even the sachet water, the plastic, bottles that we have. And some of the processes we are taking is also an opportunity to create jobs for young men and women. Some few months ago, I think about 2 months ago, I visited some of the plastic, collecting companies, because when I came, they wanted me to issue the checks, and I said, no, I needed to visit those places. And majority of the people they engage are women. And as a result of what some of them do, after they collect this plastic, they process them, they're able to produce school chairs. In fact, His Excellency, the President, your people were there when we celebrated the World Environment Day at the atomic cluster of schools. Even bunk beds are produced out of plastics. Furniture, garden furniture. In fact, a house is built using plastic waste materials. Roofing sheets, tiles are all done using waste plastic materials. And about 81% of municipal solid waste generated in Ghana is inadequately managed. And these are some of them. It's a huge challenge. And frankly speaking, it should be of concern to everybody. And I don't think that there's anybody in this country who would think that we shouldn't do something about it.
Right.
But I know the concerns. I know the concerns that are expressed by people. So if you ban it, what would be the alternative? I had an engagement with UNDP, and there's an employee at UNDP who told us a story that was interesting. She said, look, I have been buying cocoa from one cocoa seller for 2 years now. And anytime I come to buy the cocoa, she'll fetch the cocoa in a cup, pour it into a rubber and tie it. And then the bullfruit I buy, she'll tie everything in this rubber and give to me. So anytime, recently when I go there with my own cup, and I demand that she should fetch the cocoa into the cup, the woman feels I was inconveniencing her, that to fetch it, pour it in that cup is a difficulty. So, and the response the woman gave was that, look, let me tie it in the rubber. Then you can pour the cocoa from the rubber into your cup. And then what happens to that rubber? That rubber will be left out there, which affects the environment. Look, some of the floods we have, you agree with me, has to do with the choke gutters. And majority of the ways that we have that chokes our gutters are plastics.
Right. Thank you so much. Hold it for me. Let me come in studio to Mr. Botwe. You heard the minister. According to him, this particular ban is already underway and they are rolling it out. But you have concerns. What are these concerns?
Yeah, Carlos, before I would come to this question, with all humility and respect, some of the figures that the Honorable Minister gave are not correct. Indeed, when he assumed office, we've been trying to get a meeting with him just to give him a proper overview of the plastic industry so that going forward, he will understand what it is as far as the industry is concerned to enable him, when it comes to policies and decisions,
right,
he will understand and get the right spot on. So when Minister is back in town, we would seek his indulgence for us to sit with him,
right,
so we can get him through. But I'm sorry to say that some of the figures he gave is really...
Which specific figures?
Well, he was talking about we generate about 900, something around 900,000 metric tons of plastic.
Joy News, our research point to 1.1 million tons.
Well, but the minister,
yeah,
yes, something alike.
Right.
But for virgin materials, we consume 3.25 million metric tons annually. So your figures is also bogus.
Okay.
Likewise,
this figure is also bogus.
Also bogus.
You are from industry.
Exactly.
So you are speaking to
yes,
these figures
from
based
figures,
on what you are putting out there.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Our figures actually is from the Auditor General's report, 2024 report. That's where we picked the figure from.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And again, if he talks about, assuming it is 900, something around 900 metric tons, and then he's talking about 25%, we have rigid plastics. We have a lot of the plastics going into furniture. For example, a poly tank, the water container, it weighs such a lot in terms of weight. This one doesn't have any effect on the environment anyway. It is not flexible. So if you look at the total volume of consumption against what you would collect for recycling, you will never get it right. If you do not understand the technicalities involved, then you will be churning out some arguments with some figures which will never...
So the Auditor General doesn't also understand these things when they say that
plastics,
less than 10% of the plastic we are putting out there is being recycled.
It is never correct. Again, the Honorable Minister said that in this country we have about 25 companies doing recycling. Yes, which is absolutely wrong. Every plastic company in Ghana, we have what we call in-house recycling. And then we also have companies who are specifically doing recycling. So that's why I'm saying that when the Honorable Minister...
Yeah, but the public is interested in the figures. The minister said 25. You said that figure is inaccurate. What is the figure?
We have about 172 companies, and every single plastic manufacturing company has a unit for recycling. We have in-house, we have 4 types of materials that goes for recycling. We have the off-cuts, the start-off, then the final one comes as in from after use.
Right. Of the waste collected.
Exactly. So we have all these stages. We have those who do about 3 of them, about 2 of them, and those who do all the 4 of them.
And you say we have, in total?
We have more than 172.
172 recycling.
I think about...
Are this plant only based in Accra, the Greater Accra region, or they are in other parts?
Mostly in Accra, Tema. We have Kumasi, we have Takoradi, Tamale. And we have just one company here in Circle that recycled every single day, minimum 100 metric tons of waste.
But how come you are doing under 10% of all the waste if you have over
it is not correct.
How much of waste are you actually recycling?
These figures, I think they picked these figures from, some sources. Some of the figures is global.
No, this is specific to Ghana. The only regional report is specific to Ghana.
No, what I'm saying is that they pick these figures from global and then associate it with Ghana.
Right.
Which is very, very...
Okay. Now, so what are your major concerns? Are you for the ban or you're not for the ban?
No, what type of ban? We have several types of ban. From what His Excellency said, that styrofoam, we have about 3 types of styrofoam. So which one? If you permit me, this cup is a styrofoam.
Okay.
This is a PET.
Okay.
This, you all know, is also a styrofoam.
Right.
And this is also a styrofoam. Now, the difference is this. This is EPS. This is EPS.
Okay.
Expanded polystyrene. This is straight polystyrene. Okay. This is HIPS, high impact polystyrene.
Okay.
So if President said polystyrene, then it means all of these has to go unbanned. So we need to get the...
No, but the president was clear. We'll get a clarity from the minister, but based on what we heard, he mentioned specifically this one and all plastics.
So that is where we have the problem. You see, we need clarification. I think the minister was talking about INC, Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee. This is a committee that is being run under United Nations. We know from our association, we know that several other countries attend these negotiating committee meetings with the business people, the industry people coming with government officials. Unfortunately for Ghana, not a single industry player has ever been invited. Sad to say that presently there is, I think the next committee meeting will be in Geneva. We from the industry, we propose that we want to be there so that we will help and assist government to really make the right inputs. We are funding ourselves for the trip. Government says no private.
So you being consulted as a group is not there at all?
Zero. And plastics is highly a technical area. So for you, Carlos, to go as a government official to negotiate on behalf of industry, you will never get it right.
Okay.
And we say that we are prepared to fund ourselves to go and make sure that the right thing is done. Because from other associations globally, we are informed, well informed that other countries, they go with the industry behind them so that they will get the right input for them. So I think there will be so many wrong moves, but it's still not too late yet. In fact, what I'm talking to you now, we intend to make contact with the Foreign Affairs to really prompt them that this is not in the best interest as far as industry is concerned.
Let's look at some members of your association who are saying that if government goes ahead with this particular policy, it's going to affect the jobs. And you guys are putting it up at around 3.9 million.
About 3.9 million.
3.9 million jobs. Where are you getting these figures from?
So for us, direct employment, we give direct, is about 31,400. Then
these are direct jobs?
Direct. They are working in our various factories. And we have indirect about 9,900. These are casuals who will, when we have trucks to come and offload goods, to load goods, these are casuals. Then we have the plastic waste collectors. I'm sure you see them all over the place. Right. We collaborate with them. They are putting together about 1.8 million. Then we have the plastic waste recycling sector as well. That's about 6,700. And then we have the traders, those who trade. I'm sure when you go out, you see all those plastic traders. They are about, put together, about 7,000. And then the sachet industry. Okay. The sachet industry depends on that. In fact, if you take the sachet, the cost of a sachet, about 90% of the cost is about the plastic packaging. So we have the bottled and the sachet producers. They are also giving up to about 120,000. Then the distributors. We have the distributors.
Right.
We have the retailers. So when we put all together, we come to about 3.9 million. That's about 12% of Ghana's population at 33 million. Aside this, about 89% of all industries in Ghana depend on plastic packaging.
Name some of these industries. Pharmaceutical industry, for
pharmaceutical, even the oil industry, the food industry, the beverage industry, everything is packed in plastic packaging. So if we close down, if our business were affected in a very serious manner, the ripple effect is going to go across. The other interesting thing here is that what we do here in Ghana, 57% goes into export. So basically, what we are producing here is for export. We export all the way to Cameroon, all the way to Niger, Chad, all the way to Senegal. So it is not about...
So foreign exchange loss?
Exactly, exactly. So what we're trying to say is that government should hasten very slowly, dead slow. We have America, we have China, we have India. They consume millions. They have never been in a haste to jump into such conclusions. And of course, they will always try to protect their businesses. As far as plastic waste is concerned, the best and the only solution, the best option, is effective management.
Okay, we'll come to the solution, but you are telling us about job losses. About 3.916 million people will be affected.
Yes.
Now, let's compare what you are paying in terms of revenue to the government.
Whoa.
And see if banning will be a good decision or not. How much of revenue are you paying in terms of
for import duties alone? We are paying to government per year 26.4 billion. 26.4 billion in a year. For corporate tax, we are doing up 25%. If you look at SNIT and pension contributions, we are doing 257 million Ghanaian cedis per year. Electricity, we are doing about 2.4 billion per year. VAT returns, we are doing about 19 billion a year. Our projected annual turnover, we are talking about 126 billion. Now, what could happen is that for any investor, he must get returns on his investments. So if the situation demands that we should relocate, what happens is that there will be a capital flight, and that will have a serious consequences on our economy. So we are one of the economic pillars as far as Ghana's economy is concerned. We probably might be silent, but we are a strong pillar. And therefore, government should always consult us, talk to us, so that we don't have situations where in the future it would...
But is your association not concerned at all about the environmental pollution we are seeing? The plastics on our streets, in our drains, and ending up in the oceans and all
that? Very good question. 2011, I saw when you were coming up with the graphics, you talked about the 10% environmental excise tax and the plastic waste fund setup. It's hard to say that that fund is never set up. Indeed, that 10%, we mooted that idea. Government was never involved. I have all the history, the document is there. We by ourselves saw what is happening today and proposed to government that let us get a special tax so that this money will be used for the management of plastic waste.
Right.
And there was an act, and the act was explicit that 50% of that fund should go to support or to be a subsidy for plastic waste recycling. The remaining 50% will go into education.
That is public awareness.
Exactly. As at 31st December 2023, we stopped counting anyway. So as at 31st December 2023, that fund had accrued over 1.97 billion Ghana cedis in the consolidated fund.
Almost 1.8.
Almost 2 billion.
Okay.
1.97.
Oh,
so almost 2 billion,
almost
2 billion Ghana
Right.
cedis. It's sitting in there. Come tomorrow, Monday, if we are clearing any goods, raw materials from the harbor, we'll still be paying that money. And the money is going into consolidated fund.
Do you know what this money is being used for?
Maybe Honorable Minister will be able to give
All
us.
right. Okay, hold it for me. Let me bring in Tanko Yakubu. He's the Business Development Manager for Dredge Masters. They've been dealing with a lot of the plastic waste in our system. Thank you so much for joining us here on the show. Share with us how serious a problem this plastic pollution menace is, since you are coming face to face with a situation almost on a daily basis.
Thank you very much, Carlos. And good evening to my senior colleague in the studio and the Honorable Minister. This plastic menace is something that we really had to collaborate and fight it. It's as if my Honorable Minister has shown out some figures and my senior man is trying to disagree. I think we all have some varied figures depending on where you sit and all of that. But the plastic situation in Ghana is serious. And it's affecting marine life, human life, the climate change issues and all of that. And you would find out that the perennial flooding in Ghana has everything to do with plastic pollution and also the management of same. I would give you a vivid description of what happens in just the Korle Lagoon, the Korle and Odo Lagoon.
Right.
If you go around there, you will see the volume of plastics in that river that we try to dredge. It's not a joke at all. And I think the conversation we are having, we are not really, I don't know. I think government must do a lot more sensitization, and also the civil society, where my senior man belongs, must also do a lot more of the negotiating with government and all of that. Yeah, but the damage is not only in our local areas in the cities or what I just talked about. It's also affecting marine life. If you look at how the spawning of fishes, the trend of it recently, you realize that the plastic has affected fish production, natural fish breeding in our river bodies and in the seas. And also, it has silted our river bodies, the major one, which is the Volta Lake. Now, the Volta Lake has silted to the level that when the Bagri Dam and small, rainfall, continuous rainfall, you see the effect of the flooding that happens in Mepe and its environs. That is the level of siltation
Right.
plastics and debris and all of that. And I think government must have this conversation in a very more active manner.
So you support the call by government to totally ban the plastic in our country?
Well, yes, of course. We can have alternative to support what the minister is trying to talk about, businesses that will be lost and all that. There are alternatives. But because we cannot do outright ban now, we can phase it out gradually.
Why can't we do outright ban? Why can't we do outright ban?
Because according to what the minister is saying, you need to put certain measures in place. Investment for banning it is rolling it out gradually is better than doing it right now. If you do, businesses will collapse and all of that.
But we've been doing that since 2008. 2008, when first the government banned plastics, and it's now 2025. We're still talking about gradual process?
Exactly my point. So we have to start the conversation on a more serious note now. Get to the drawing board and do something, radical. But you see, we in Dredge Masters, we try to proffer solution to some of these things.
What are some of the things you think we can do in 1 minute, briefly, to solve this plastic pollution, man?
The minister mentioned about 25 transfer centers and recycle plants across the country, right? Jospon Group alone have about 16 of them. We should use the transfer station and the recycle plants to ensure we reduce plastic waste in this country. And that's how to start.
But you've not touched on segregation, which is a major challenge when it comes to plastics. That I thought you were going to touch on that, because you go to the landfill site and the plastics bags are mixed up there with everything. So isn't segregation a key means of addressing the issue?
Yes, you are right. And that's where the local authorities come in. That's where sensitization also come in. That's where the civil society, and this is supposed to be a collaboration between all the stakeholders, by the way.
Right.
And so every single solution must be brought on the table so we can get this done.
All right. Thank you so much, Yakubu. Hold on for me. Let me go to the Minister in charge of Environment. So you've heard the concerns from the plastic manufacturers. They believe that government must hasten slowly. You are not doing a lot of consultation and you are getting a lot of things wrong. You agree?
Well, first and foremost, I think that he made his intervention clouded with some profound level of arrogance and untruth. Ideally, I shouldn't be responding in that manner. First and foremost, I never mentioned 900,000. And I urge him to listen to my intervention. I said 840,000 tons. As a matter of fact, the figure provided by the Auditor General is way higher than the figure I have provided. And he rubbished my figure, rubbished the Auditor General. And then when you asked him to mention specifically, he couldn't. I mean, I think that we are talking to people, very smart people, and experts are listening to us. For you to say that the figure provided is wrong, the figure Auditor General is wrong, you don't have the capacity than the Auditor General, than the ministries and the experts and technical people who have been engaged in this business for decades. And then you think that your figure, which you haven't provided anyway, is accurate. I think we need to be very measured when we're making such interventions.
Right.
So I never mentioned 900,000 in the first place. I don't know where he got it. The INC, the Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee, I attended my first INC meeting just last month. No country, and I say it with emphasis, I don't know who is misleading him, no country came with any private sector. This is an intergovernmental negotiating. For any country to come, they would have had those negotiations done in the country before they come. And I have been in the ministry for about 4 months now, or less than 4 months, and I can tell you the information I have gotten from the previous minister based on the handing over, there were some negotiations. If they weren't, then that's a different thing. Again, let me also make this point very clear. I never said we have 25 recycling company. I said 25 plastic recycling companies. We have several recycling companies in Ghana, but specifically on plastic. He admitted the majority of them are in Accra. And then he claimed that we have 170. How many of them? I want him to mention 20 in Accra. If majority are in Accra, and he claimed we have 170 plus. How many of them are in Accra? That is absolutely not true. Look, we have been engaging plastic manufacturing companies, recycling companies. You have engaged. If you haven't engaged, that's fine. In any case, I have been at the ministry. I haven't seen any letter or invitation or request to come and meet me. I haven't seen that. Yet he has the luxury to rubbish everything we do. Let me make this point very, very clearly. If you look at some of the issues we have raised, and he tends to gloss over the consequential effects of plastics. He glossed over it. He thinks that, jobs will be lost. Lives have been lost, not jobs. Lives have been lost. And if you listen to me clearly, I didn't say that we're just going to ban. I said, look, I can understand the frustrations and the concerns of people like him because they are looking at the business end of what they do. We can understand. And I reiterated the point strongly. I said, look, we are looking at alternative solutions. And this must be done gradually. So I don't know why he was so embittered. We need
I think that point is well made, but I am more interested in the alternatives. What are the alternatives?
So that's what I'm saying that, look, we need to broaden the conversation. We need to engage. Rwanda has done that.
Right.
Many countries, Tunisia, Algeria, they have done that. So when he says that jobs are going to be lost, that is why government will not just do it, boom. We need to engage. If you listen to the gentleman who spoke before me, there are some who view that, look, ban it now. There are floods, lives are lost, marine lives are affected, economic conditions are affected. When marine lives are affected, those who engage in fishing, jobs are also being lost. And that's one other flip side of it. So we need to negotiate. We need to engage. My doors are opened. I don't even have doors. When they say my doors I don't even have doors. I have an open door. You can come in. So I think that let's have further engagement.
Right.
If you have your figures, people, and I'm happy the second person who spoke said, look, there are several figures. But these figures, we are getting them from certified, standard, acceptable, international recognized institutions. We have a whole directorate at the ministry that have tremendous experts who have engaged in this business for decades. So for him to think that the information they give, the information Auditor General give is wrong. He also made another point that it wasn't government decision, that it was their decision. So what is wrong? Even if you suggested to government in 2011 that there should be an establishment of a fund, purposes for this, and it went to Parliament. I don't know where he's getting the figure about 1.9 billion. I don't even know.
Almost 2 billion, he said.
Yes. I don't know.
You don't know of that sum in the consolidated account?
I don't know where he's getting that figure.
But is government collecting that money?
Of course. Look, let me be very clear. In the first place, he said, when you asked him, he said, there's nothing. He said, yes, there was, but you don't think that it's existing. And in another breath, he concluded by saying that, they've gotten about 1.9 something billion, almost 2 billion Ghana cedis, and that it is being sent to consolidated fund, that anytime at all they bring in anything, maybe perhaps I wasn't a minister, maybe perhaps this government was not there. So that is why we need to have further engagement. And I thought that if we had those concerns, come sit with us. And the president's statement, and my initial statement was to send a signal that we don't intend to just come, let's ban. Let's see how we can engage. Let's see how we can do it gradually. And I don't think that
so let's get a clarity, because like you said, a lot of people are watching. Business people are interested in the decision government makes at this point. When is the ban going to? You say you've started, but where are you starting from? I mean, there's no clarity. Are you now going to have engagement? We want to be clear on that.
No, we have actually had several engagement with plastic recycling companies, to the extent that I said that we even got funding from the World Bank. Just last 2 months, I issued checks to plastic recycling companies. About 11 of them. Some took as much as $500,000. It was on video. Media men were there, because the process has begun. And we are looking at how we can engage these people. Maybe perhaps what we deal with, are we dealing with those officially? We know there are people who may sit in their room somewhere and be doing plastic recycling who would know. But I'm saying that we have started the process to the extent that we have gotten money from the World Bank to support those who are engaged in plastic recycling.
When did it start? When did you start this particular?
It started some time ago. But what I know, when I was made the minister, it was about time for them to even issue the check. And I said, no.
So it started before you became the minister?
Oh, yes, yes. And I said, let me visit the companies. So I took pains to visit those companies, assess before even those checks were. And it was just the first tranche of what we have actually given. And I told you, out of the 11, 8 are all in Accra, and we have one in region, one in Northern region. I visited even the one.
Yeah, I think that point is well made. But yes. So are you able to tell us when you actually started, or when government actually started, not under the Mahama administration, but specifically?
Of course, they've started it long before I came. Issues of plastic ban. In fact, if you look at the money that was given to these selected plastic companies, I think started almost a year, 2 years ago, when the government got that funding from the World Bank to pilot that. And we are looking at, even after the pilot, and how do we expand it? And it was done between government of Ghana and UNDP, and we've gotten a lot of assistance we do in
right.
In
so
this.
It means that the government is putting in some money, but we need to measure impact assessment. Where are we? The 2 years that we've done, what are the figures looking like?
I just released the first checks almost over a month ago for the, and that was just the first tranche. Now you pilot it in these selected regions, and I even had concerns. And I said, if we are piloting, we should have it across the country.
Which regions are we looking at?
You have about 8 in Greater Accra. You have 1 in Central region. You have 1 in Eastern region. You have 1 in Northern region. And I was saying that we need to have 1 in Bro and Hafo or 2. There are some of them, they operate here, and then they can have other sublets in other regions. And when I visited, you remember when I was making my statement, I said they have been able to produce furniture, school furniture. And let me make this point very clear. As a result of the school furniture, I engaged the Minister for Education, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, and engaged His Excellency the President, that looking at the furnitures and the bank beds that were produced using this recycled plastic materials, why not we substitute, the use of wood, and then we can rely on these plastic materials. So even if they generate, they should be able to use them. And the Minister of Education, upon the directive of His Excellency the President, said, look, they will engage that company further so that they can substitute these plastic tables and decks and bank beds that are produced with these plastics. What happened? It means that more and more waste plastic, waste materials are going to be gathered, which creates a lot of jobs. The president made that statement.
But you're going to create the jobs with recycling this plastic, you say?
Plastic materials, exactly.
And you want to have the desk and school furniture replaced with this, which is a good thing. But now that you are banning, the waste is supposed to serve as the raw material.
We have huge piles of waste. I have just told you, what we have been able to even recycle is less than 10%. So the 90%, where does it go? We have floods in Accra. People have lost their livelihoods. Lives are lost as a result of that. Agriculture activities are affected. They are not interested in that. We understand as a government, we need to protect every business. We need to protect plastic, companies like the one my brother represents. But we need to do that in taking into consideration what will be the consequential effects. And that is why we are extending this invitation to everybody, that let's do it gradually. Some countries didn't bother. Rwanda didn't bother to do it gradually. But if you ask me, if you want to just implement it, what will be the consequences? So that is why we're engaging people, engaging them, and see how we do it gradually, so that we can seed it, we can move it gradually to the extent that we reach a stage that we have alternatives. Then let's ban outright.
Do you have any time frame within which you want to a target?
Well,
gradually
it will
take forever.
I'll be the happiest person if you're able to do this by 2 years. As I talk to you, in fact, there's a company that sent a proposal, and I can tell you we have taken several proposals from plastic manufacturing companies and plastic waste recycling companies. That company sent a proposal that is so outstanding, and we are looking at them to see how we can assist such private entities. Another last point, we are organizing the first Science, Technology and Environment Fair in Ghana. We had the launch just recently. The fair is going to be done in August. We are focusing how our research institutions can come out with research outputs that will also tailor towards what this plastic manufacturing companies. There are countries they can do water to be contained in a paper bag, so that you can still take that water without having much effects. And these are some of the things we're looking at. So it's going to be a gradual process.
Great. Briefly, in 30 seconds, how is the conference on the oceans going in France? Briefly.
Well, it's interesting. I came here about 2 days immediately after my Eid. I left. I was in Monaco where we had the blue economy and financing of the blue economy, and you had outstanding persons, including Mo Ibrahim. And Mo Ibrahim made a very strong case for Africa, but that in all the negotiations and the discussions, Africa has actually been left out.
Okay.
And if you look at venture capital globally, which is about $300 billion, the entire continent of Africa access only $3 billion. But one point he made that I think is instructive. He said that, look, in the blue economy and the ocean marine investment, you have private sector in the West or in Europe who are investing in it, not government. But those private businesses would love to invest in Africa, but they rely on reports from rating agencies, Fitch, Moody, and they're all based in South Africa. So sometimes they depend on third-party information. So when they see such information, they're unwilling to come and invest. And Mo Ibrahim made a very stronger case that China and other countries have taken advantage. They should also be doing
respectfully, I think when you get back, we'll have a bigger conversation.
The conference itself starts tomorrow.
Yeah.
Then I'm the leader of the delegation. I'm here with my sister, the Minister for Fisheries. I'm here with Foreign Affairs, the Minister of Trade and others.
Right.
And we shall make Ghana case tomorrow when I take the opportunity to.
Thank you so much for speaking to us here on the program. We are grateful. Now, let me give you the final word. Mr. Botwe, we have less than 2 minutes. I know you have a lot of concerns. So, proposal, how do we address these concerns? Because the concerns you are sharing are not different from what the minister is sharing, as well as what Yakubu also shared. In 2 minutes, tell us how we can address this particular challenge. Briefly.
Briefly. But from the outset, if I misquoted Honorable Minister, my apology.
Right.
But I would also want to correct one point that
we have
I was in his office with my team. Unfortunately, that day he had to leave for an emergency meeting. Probably he might not be aware, but then we'll wait for him and we'll engage him when he is back. Yes, so I think
the way forward.
The way forward. Yes, so we have proposals. If we had met the Honorable Minister, would have presented a proposal that we think we could start bit by bit, and we should have some impact as far as our environment and plastic waste is concerned. So we will wait on the minister and we'll give him our proposal. But the
public is interested to know how you want this problem solved. Ban or no ban, how you want it dealt?
So we have different types of ban. No, if you picked...
So how do you want
if you said, you see, the problem is complex. If you said you are substituting sachet water and you want to pack in paper, meaning that it's going to be Tetra Pak system. And for a Tetra Pak system, the minimum setup will cost you 86 million Ghana cedis to set up. That is something for like the
factory?
Yes. And then again, for paper to contain anything liquid, it will still have a plastic lining. You can't run away from that.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, you will rather compound the problem.
So in one sentence?
In one sentence, it is recycling. I mean, once you have all the processes and then you have the right approach and it is effective and you have very good source separation of waste, I think that is the best solution.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Botwe. Let me give the final word to you, Yakubu. 30 seconds.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that what we should do is to use the innovative measures that have been put in place, that have been discussed in Ghana over the years. One of them is that we have agreed that we will turn the plastic waste into dustbins and other materials that are readily needed in Ghana. And Jospon Group of Companies and Zoom Lion has done that, have put it in motion. I think we should use that opportunity to reduce the waste and make sure we stop the waste, the plastic waste, and
all right,
things will go normal again.
Thank you so much for speaking to us here on The Probe. Tanko Yakubu, the Business Development Manager for Dredge Masters. We've also been speaking with Ebo Botwe. He's the Plastic Manufacturers Association President, as well as the Minister responsible for Environment, Ibrahim Murtala. This has been The Probe. We have a lot of stories of this on myjoyonline.com. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.